Hey guys, this is the Lion, and today I'm going to review Man of Steel. So my first review, it might as well be Man of Steel. It's an awesome movie. I'm a huge Superman fan, so let's do this. Now, for those of you who just want to know whether or not you should spend money to watch this film without any spoilers or hints of the story, yes, you should spend money to watch this film. I did, saw the midnight release, do not regret it for a second. If I could go back in time and do it again, I would do it again because it was absolutely worth my financial compensation. Now, for those of you who want a more detailed review with spoilers, please continue. I will talk about the story first, the casting second, and give my overall rating last. Alright, so quickly the story. Now, the story is. It's good, but you need to break it down. You have the first half, and you have the second half. Now, the reason you need to break it down like this is because whoever was doing the editing in the room, be it the director, Zack Snyder, or otherwise, they certainly knew what movie they wanted to shoot, and it was about the Kryptonians and nothing but the Kryptonians. Let me explain. The first 15 minutes show the destruction of Krypton. That's where it's centered, and it does the destruction. It starts with Jor-El, starts with him talking to the Council, then Zod's little actions, Kal-El being sent off, and then Krypton's destruction after Zod is sent to the Phantom Zone. I mean, it is really just focused on it. And it turns out this is entirely irrelevant, since shortly after Computer Jor-El explains to Clark about the destruction of Krypton in very good detail. So that 15 minutes was really pointless, and not only that, shows kind of a hole in why the Kryptonians couldn't live. Because they have the capabilities to send Zod and his people off-world to the Phantom Zone, and that's how they survive the destruction, yet they don't flee. And they don't really show it very well. I mean, what they could have done is simply said, hey, we were going to leave, but then Zod did his little Civil War thing, and it drained us of resources and time, so we really couldn't. But me, being the awesome Jor-El that I am, I started building one ship, and that's the one I sent you on, my son, Kal-El of Krypton. Boom, done. Nobody has to question it. But the rest of the time after Krypton's destruction, it seems to be like the story is running as fast as it can to get to Zod and the Kryptonians showing up. And I say this because it spends a lot of time in what I like to call no passage of time land. Basically, it's what I heard before. Basically, there's cuts between scenes where you have no idea how much time has passed. It gives you no context like that. One example would be like Superman is sitting in this room talking to people, and the very next scene he's in the desert with Lois, and you're like, that's a weird little transition. Could we have seen him, like, I don't know, pan into the shot, show some sort of movement? No, okay. Because the story is doing everything it can to cut out on time so that it can focus on Superman versus the Kryptonians. So the first half I would give like a 7 out of 10. There is some Clois build up, which I think is very rushed. But the second half is really where the gem, the diamond in the rough, the big old ruby of this film is. So the second half is really the action movie, and it does not disappoint. This film is freaking awesome. It does well at showing Superman's powers, but still making him relatable since he's dealing with some really big threats, which are namely his other people. And the CGI work is done exceptionally well, in my opinion, most of the time. Of course, there are some times where you're looking at that backdrop, or you're looking at that CGI flying of Superman, and you're like, yeah, that could have been better. But overall, it's very well done. In fact, I wouldn't even say the last fight between Superman and Zod's the best fight. I wouldn't, because the fight with Superman and Faora, as well as Nameless Kryptonian helper that's helping Faora, is perfect. The CGI blends so very well with the real backdrops that it flows. And then, of course, there's the scenes with Faora fighting the U.S. military where she just goes Albert Wesker on their asses because she's so fast. It's like a blink of an eye. She's here and she's there. And she's punching them and throwing them around. And there's nothing they can do because she's all badass Kryptonian. And the second half really flushes everyone else. Like I said, the first half really rushed, which doesn't mean it was entirely bad or really looked down upon, because it had greatness in it. It had the flashbacks that told the Smallville story, which I'm glad they did it that way. I didn't want to spend time in Smallville. I spent 10 years watching Smallville. I don't need to see the Clark Kent origin story again. But they did it through flashbacks, and that's where you saw Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent, and he was 10 for 10. It really pulled on your heartstrings. You really saw, him help try to mold Clark the best he could, as well as his mom. I'm not trying to throw her out, but since Paul Kent dies, I think we should focus on him in the flashbacks. But yes, it was really well done with flashbacks in the first half. But the second half is just it allows all the characters it brought to the fold who got a little rushed before to really grow. Lois, Clark, Colonel, it really helps bring it over. Perry White. Now the second half is really awesome. The pacing's well done. There's a lot of action, but it leaves you room to breathe in between the actions to really absorb what has happened. And then, of course, the last little bit after the Kryptonians have been defeated, it goes back to No Passage of Timeland, where it's just random scenes just trying to run to the exit. So yes, this movie really knows what it wanted to film about. Everything else fell by the wayside. Clois was secondary priority, Clark and Lois, which is a relationship that's built up. A little rushed in the first half, but really well done in the second half. So, yeah, that's the story, basically. It's got some good, it's got some bad, obviously, but the second half is just so good that any problems I had and you have with the first half should get outshined. Now, the casting. Okay, so the casting is almost entirely awesome. In fact, there are three performances that I think should get gold stars because they were above and beyond, in my opinion. And only one casting choice I didn't really like. So let's start with the one I didn't like, and then we'll talk about the three gold stars. Alright, so the one I didn't like was Michael Shannon as Zod, and I understood the Zod character, both from the comics and from this movie. The movie's dialogue gives you very little to think about when trying to figure out who Zod is. He is a warrior. He was genetically bred, as the Kryptonians are, to fulfill a specific role. That's what Kryptonians do. Warriors, laborers, scholars, whatever. Zod was a warrior. That's why he was born. That's how he was trained. He is to put Krypton and its people first and safeguard them, doing acts that would conflict with his own morals, but he does it full on, and he would do it again because that's who he is. Michael Shannon's portrayal of this character came across as a whiny little bitch. He couldn't find a nice balance between conflicted but committed to the cause. So anytime he was supposed to show confliction about what he's done, he either doesn't really do it very well, just sort of shows like, I didn't like doing that, but I did it. Or he just sort of becomes a whiny, like, I did what I had to do. He can't find a good middle ground. And so, all the time you spend with him, it just, to me at least, it took its toll. Which leads us into the three gold stars, one of which being Faora. The actress that played Faora was badass. She was legit boss in every scene she was in. She played cold, calculating, ruthless soldier to a T. When she fought Clark and she was talking to him, that scene is just poetry for her. I mean, it is just... I wish she had more scenes, to be honest. I think the villains, the other Kryptonians, could have really benefited from a little less Zod and a little more Faora. So yes, gold star to her. Another gold star goes to Kevin Costner portraying Jonathan Kent. Now, it's done, as I said, in flashbacks, but it's done exceptionally well. Now, Jonathan Kent this movie is a conflicted man. He loves his son, and he wants his son to do all this good helping people, but he also is genuinely concerned about how the world will react to him. Even going so far as to say maybe he should have let a bus full of kids die to protect his secret. And he handles this so well because you can just feel it, and you can see it, and you can hear it every time he has to try to help Clark be good but safe at the same time. Even going so far as to letting himself die when Clark could save him, because Clark saving him would reveal himself to the world, and Jonathan Kent is terrified. And so he lets himself die, and it is just... there's so many feels with Jonathan Kent. So many feels. So Kevin Costner, gold star. The next one goes to Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White. Now, I was concerned about this. I was concerned this was Hollywood being tokenistic. And I had the same concern when I saw the trailers for Thor. So I saw Idris Elba, and I'm like, who the fuck is he playing? And I find out it's Heimdall. Now, Heimdall's supposed to be this old-ass white dude. So I was a little concerned. I was like, what's going on? Did Hollywood look around and be like, there's not enough rainbow in this rainbow bridge of Asgard? But I was like, well, Idris Elba's a good actor. He's in Luther. I personally want him to play T'Challa. I got a lot of props for this guy, so let's see where they go with him. And it seemed to be just they needed a black guy in Asgard, because Heimdall's... just his lines aren't any good. He's practically told to be monotone unless they need him to yell in anger at this one scene. He does nothing of exceptional acting that would warrant someone as capable as Idris Elba. Very confusing to me. So that was my concern going into this with Perry White. and Lawrence Fishburne. And for the first half, he doesn't do anything exceptional in his acting, but that is because the first half is just running as fast as it can to the second half. So you can't really hold the first half acting or character development against anyone. The second half, there's this scene, all right, with Perry White and Lawrence Fishburne. Now, he's not in the movie a lot, but in the second half, when he is, you know it, I know it, and we feel it. So Jenny, one of the Daily Planet people, is trapped under some rubble, and he freaking lets her know he is not going anywhere. He works to save her, but there's this laser that's coming to kill them, and it's getting closer, and they've got nothing they can do to save her, and he takes her hand, and he gives her this look. And Lawrence Fishburne does this look that conveys so much emotion to the audience that it connects, and you feel it. I mean, it was just, I don't know how to describe it, but it was exceptional. Nothing but skill from Lawrence Fishburne. And so he deserves a gold star. If his casting was tokenism, then screw Hollywood, but he owned that role, and I look forward to seeing him in future movies. The last thing I will say before I give my rating is that I was pleasantly surprised with Amy Adams. Now, I was looking forward to Henry Cavill. He has the look, he has the acting chops to play Clark Kent / Superman. I was concerned about Amy Adams because I just couldn't see it. I just couldn't see it. And then she played it, and it didn't take me long at all to be like, yeah, okay, she is totally taking this role for all it's worth. She is owning it. She is walking that talk as Lois Lane. And yeah, I was wrong when I was concerned about her. She totally did an exceptional job. So yeah, aside from Michael Shannon and aside from a little rushing in the first half, this movie is great. It's really great. I will give this an 8.5 out of 10 solely because the first 15 minutes are really pointless, and they could have done more making it a fuller story. But yeah, 8.5 out of 10. I am very much so looking forward to a sequel, which I hope they do. Thank you guys. Like, favorite, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if there's anything else you want me to review, TV shows or movies, let me know, and I will get on it if I can. Alright, take care.